Smarter is Better presents Catch and Release. The last thing I wanted to do this morning was to wake up at the butt crack of dawn and head down to Choke Canyon Reservoir. Uncle Chet had a brand new bass fishing boat, a Cougar X13, which had a list of the most powerful things that made it the best boat our family had ever owned. My dad pulled me out of school that day, and here I was on the dock, watching both my uncles guide the giant 4x4 to the water's edge. Dad was driving, one eye in the rearview mirror and the other on my uncles as they were waving him in. It was chillier than I anticipated, but my thin jacket did the best it could. It would soon warm up when the sun came out. I noticed for the first time that my uncles had brought their tackle boxes that looked like the size of suitcases. The inspiration hit as I realized the bass boat had only 3 real seats. There was a little room when you included 3 big corn-fed brothers. Before I hatched my plan, I turned on my phone to check the signal. I wasn't going to be left on the shore without a tether to the real world. Soon the gold boat was sitting deep in the water. It really did shine like a beacon in the sun. And although I was not in the mood to fish, even I could appreciate its beauty. I watched them all 3 at Twitter about the size of bass in this legendary reservoir. Dad was explaining, my buddy at work caught a largemouth bass that was over 10 pounds. I had so many pictures of my dad holding up fish that one Father's Day I gave him an expandable ruler which is attached to his rod. Dad held up his hands and he said, it was about 18 inches. My Uncle Chet was listening intently and nodding along. Chet was the kind of guy who lived for deer hunting, but recently became enamored with fish. I'd love to get one of those big Choke Canyon bass, he said with wonder in his voice. Uncle Rich piped up. I'd like to get one of those sherlunkers. He held up a digital scale. All 3 of these guys were big catch and release fellas. You catch a fish, you weigh it, you take a pick, remove the hook, and toss it back wherever your boat ends up. Texas even has a sherlunker program where the fish are taken and added to a breeding regimen. And they never ate the fish. In fact, I think they all lived on steak, preferably Texas steak. But the thrill of the hunt was intoxicating to them. That's when I told them I should probably stay back and give them room to maneuver on the boat. Dad shook his head immediately. No way. I want you to kill one, Ricky. I was hunting another type of thrill. I was waiting for Maritza from homeroom to text me back. Dad, how about you go catch a big one and then you can come back and you can show it to me. So rather than just get in the boat, you want me to motor all the way back to show you. Dad wanted to argue, but he wanted to get in the boat more. And I wanted him to get in the boat so I could text the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. So in a way, it was no surprise when Uncle Chet said, I remember being 16, and all the guys nodded. Dad tossed me the keys to the truck and started to say, we'll be back in a while and don't talk. Dad, are you going to give me the stranger danger talk? His brothers laughed out loud. Uncle Chet and Dad boarded the boat, and I heard Uncle Rich say, teenagers, sometimes it's better just to let them be, which I wholeheartedly agreed with, as my fingers itched to see if Maritza had messaged me back. The engine roared so loud that any reservations Dad had about leaving me on the shore vanished. I could tell by the awestruck look on their faces. I stepped back, waving, and then I scrambled for my phone. I saw the tiny text bubbles rise and disappear. I was dying with anticipation. It was 6:30. She was on the bus, on her way to school. I looked over at a grouping of picnic tables just off the shore on the Ramada, still glued to my phone, and made my way over. When I got there, I suddenly caught a whiff of the most spectacular bacon scent I'd ever smelled. Can you smell sizzling, or is it just my imagination? But as I glanced over at the table, I saw a steaming plate of bacon and eggs and biscuits on a metal camping plate. Our metal camping plate, just like the ones we used when we're hunting elk. How had I not seen my dad lay this out for me? It was obviously the fishing breakfast he had planned. It was still sizzling, and I was ravenously hungry. And it was Tuesday. There wasn't a soul in sight, so I knew I wasn't taking somebody's breakfast. Dad, I realized, must be slicker than I thought. I actually began salivating when I got near it. Crispy bacon is my weakness. And although I was bothered by the fact that I hadn't seen Dad with the plate or this pile of food, I was bothered by the way the chat bubble kept showing up and disappearing, and I was a little bit irritated because I would be hanging around the lake by myself. Despite all that, I don't think I ever thought about not popping the bacon into my mouth. The moment the bacon was in my mouth, I felt a pull so hard on my lip that I instantly began screaming. I don't know if I would call it pain, but it was like a giant had me by the jaw. My scream seemed to echo back to me as I was now in a cylinder of light, the hot whoosh of air all around me. I wet my pants immediately. The pressure on my jaw ran the length of my body as it pulled me forward. I think I was there a few minutes because by the time the light wane began to to wane into a bluish tint, my pea-soaked pants were drying from the whooshing air. Somehow there was now a grate below my feet, and I was dangling above it. I could see what seemed like a stainless steel walls, and one wall that was just a grid of tools and symbols, and a sapphire light emitting from it. The air had been warm, but I shook so hard my vision began to blur. I wanted to scream, but now I couldn't even emit a sound, maybe a grunt or a choke. I slobbered, but I couldn't say anything. I couldn't touch the ground, and my neck began radiating lightning bolts of pain down my back. This is it. This is how I die. And then that's when I thought, this is not Earth. This is not of this earth. I reached my toe down as far as I could, but I couldn't even graze the ground to ease my pain. I pitched forward, and although it made the pain more intense, it had no effect. I stayed latched on by the jaw and face by an unseen force that would not let me go. As I prepared myself for the end, I realized the walls were beginning to shift to one side. They were moving like sliding glass doors. If I had not already wet my pants, I would have then. There were 3 tall, thin, gray-skinned creatures loping toward me. The largest one wore a sash that looked like it had an insignia on it. He moved like he was underwater. I think it was male. I had the feeling it was male. I had a brief interaction with what I can only call its consciousness. I knew he was the captain of this vessel. He had young at home, or at least a tiny version of himself. I knew he was really proud of this vessel. I'm about 5'11", and standing next to the captain, I would have come to his chest. The 2 others, maybe I would have been nearer to their shoulders. I didn't want these things to touch me, but my face hurt so bad, and even the twitch was excruciating. Suddenly, the captain moved his hand over his head, and my body followed like a cat toy on a string. The others were standing together, their heads very near each other. Although I was not trying, a tiny window into their consciousness began to expand in my eye. They were proud of the captain and his catch. I was a big deal. Because I was curly-haired? Yeah, I hadn't cut my hair in months because I was really proud of these baseball curls. I knew that both of them were jealous of the curly hair and long shin bones. I felt them take out a laser and measure my shin bone, my hair length, and weigh me. I felt the captain as he took a live broadcast back to his planet, showing me wriggling on the beam of energy. I could even feel the wave of excitement as they showed the video of me selecting which piece of bacon to nibble. My ears were searing by the clicking and cacophony of chatter, loud sighs, and smacking noises as the entire planet seemed to cheer for the captain. His 2 companions also chittered and chattered so loud I forgot about the pain in my jaw, and I wished I could cover my ears. They did a second round of measuring. This time, the other shin, they pulled out a few of my hairs. I thought they were going to take me to their planet. I thought about my poor dad and uncles and the fear they would have when they saw that I was gone from the beach. Thought about Maritza. I thought about my mom, who was going to kill my dad when she figured out that he had left me on shore. These were the thoughts that I had when the cylinder got warm and the air began to fly past me. It went from warm to uncomfortably hot as I felt myself begin to sweat. I felt the release from my face as from the power source. I was suddenly sliding down at a rate of speed that made me think of a water park at a water slide times 10. I don't remember how my landing was or if it hurt. I only remember looking out at the lake, now dotted with ice floes. How long had I been gone? I had no idea, but the feeling in my face, not being in excruciating pain, was so good. I fell to my knees. I saw there was snow on the ground, and it had obviously been months since I was taken. The lake looked so different covered in ice that it was hard to orientate myself. I realized I was so cold and my jacket was doing nothing. I pulled out my phone, and the battery was dead, so it wouldn't turn on. I was going to have to hike to a road to find my way out of here. When I began walking, I heard the crunch of snow behind me. I whirled around, and I saw Hunter in fatigues and a red hunting cap. He had his rifle slung low on his hip. Son, what are you doing out here dressed like that? I launched into aliens, breakfast, peeing my pants, the reservoir, how far I needed to go to get back to Corpus Christi. He listened, still while caressing the butt of his rifle. He itched his head. Son, I don't know about you or aliens or your dad or where you been, but if so, those aliens didn't take you back to Texas. You're smack dab in the middle of Wisconsin.